Coffee with Crime and Sugar by Shakespeare on AO3, Episode 3, Chapter 1. It's a startling to wake up, because Izuku isn't quite sure what exactly wakes him up. He blinks around at the dimness of his living room, noting from the warm sunlight from the sheer curtains indicating it's probably late afternoon. And then there's a knock at the door, so that's what had woken him up. He isn't expecting anyone, rarely ever is, actually. The only person he's spoken to recently, very recently, is his neighbor. Izuku purses his lips, and then immediately regrets doing it because of the stinging pain on the lower one that starts acting up again. Another knock, followed by something indescribable on the other side. But it's from that voice that had made him feel like hot jelly. He doesn't know if he's ready to interact with him again quite yet, but not answering the door would seem rude, considering he opened up for Izuku to borrow a cup of sugar. But Izuku's still tired and doesn't want to socialize. Another knock, followed along with another calling out for him, simply referring to him as neighbor. Damn, he is persistent. That's also a bit attractive. Izuku sighs through his nose, letting the person on the other side know he's coming as he lifts himself off the couch and pats over on the door. 3 locks later, Izuku's twisting the handle and pulling the door open to reveal his next-door neighbor. He'll only admit it to himself, but the other is a sight for sore eyes. "I was just stopping by to make sure you hadn't died," said the taller man. Izuku resisted the urge to chip on his own injured bottom lip. "How thoughtful," he said, despite his face feeling warm from hearing that honey-sweet voice. He hasn't gotten nearly enough rest like he'd like, and he feels himself starting to lean into the dorm frame, catching his shoulder and keeping him there. "Occasionally," says the other with a lazy grin. From inside of the apartment, his timer that he's set began to go off, the signal for him to wake up from his afternoon nap and check on the food. He falters, looking back into the apartment, and over at his neighbor again. It would seem to be rude to cut this visit short, wouldn't it? And the other had invited him into his home before. Shouldn't Izuku do the same? Or maybe this was just a courtesy checkup because he saw that Izuku was injured and doesn't want to stay and chat. "You don't seem in any rush to get that," the man pointed out, eyes looking past Izuku's shoulder, presumably over at the phone, going off on the coffee table. "It's just the timer," Izuku says in response, and then, before he could lose the nerve, adds, "Would you, like to come in?" Those mesmerizing eyes blink at him, as if he wasn't expecting that offer. "If you'll have me, sure." He agrees without much thought. However, once Izuku allows him in, he does add, "It's not very smart to invite strangers to your home, neighbor. I could be a serial killer for all you know." It's said with a smugness to it. Joking, obviously. Right? Serial killers don't exactly announce their intentions. Izuku notes when shutting up the timer on his phone. "And you definitely wasted an opportunity for murder when I came to borrow sugar," he added, just to sink in the same joking tone that the other had on. But then he gets to thinking about that time of him in the other man's apartment, alone with him, in the dark. He gulps, and hopes it's not audible to the other. "Maybe I forgot to lay down tarp that day and didn't want to make a mess." Quirps the taller male, and he slips off his shoes. He gives Izuku a smirk. If looks could kill, then this guy definitely is a murderer. Izuku clears his throat, looking over towards the kitchen. Coffee?" he offers, and then remembers a thing that he forgot to buy at the store today. Though, thought to be fair, he did have a clipboard chucked at him, so it'll be a bit difficult to remember significant things like a lack of sugar. Somehow, as if sensing Izuku's very thought, the other nods. "Black is fine," he says. Izuku leads him to the small kitchen, telling him to make himself comfortable while loading the coffee maker and pulling 2 mugs from the clipboard. He makes a point to not turn around towards the other while checking on the contents of the slow burner. just to give his face a second to cool down. But then again, it's not good to have your back to a stranger, is it? But those jokes earlier were exactly that. Jokes. His neighbor isn't a serial killer or villain or anything bad. Sure, he looks intimidating, but Izuku should be someone who knows plenty on how looks can be deceiving. It's fine. This is okay. Just two neighbors hanging out. He carefully carries the steaming mugs to the table where the other waits, the porcelain making a soft clack when it meets the polished wood. Your lip looks better than it did earlier. The other notes. Izuku tries not to visibly grimace. He's still a tad embarrassed that he was seen in such a state. It wasn't really anything serious. He murmurs into his mug, the heated porcelain, hurting where it's pressed against the sculpture's strip of his split lip. He needs to stop forgetting that his mouth injury. It definitely looked serious. The other says in response to Izuku's probably obvious downplay. Those captivating eyes flicker briefly to Izuku's mouth, and that very action makes his heart speed up. I wonder if you get into stuffles often, neighbor. You don't strike me as the violent type. Izuku would pout if it didn't hurt. He settles on letting a humph. I can take a little violence. An indigo eyebrow raises, and then the corner of that smirk lifts even higher, as if saying, "Oh, really now?" Izuku can't help but feel that he's given the other ammo. He quickly clears his throat. A subject change is necessary for survival. Are you just gonna keep calling me neighbor? The other just tilts his head. It's not like you told me your name. It's not like you've asked. Come to think of it, Izuku doesn't think the other has framed anything he said so far in a question. At all. A soft little huff, a smug smile. He leans back in his chair. Touché. Izuku sits and waits for the other to give his name, but seconds pass by in silence, leading Izuku to believe that he's the one who's supposed to be starting his introduction. Well, since the guy wants to be so mysterious, Izuku figures he should too. Still, it's not like giving him the name on his file wouldn't count as an alias, because that's what it is essentially. But then again, Izuku's just too secretive for his own good. And well-being, that too. You can call me... Izuku starts. Anytime, day or night. His swooning heart screams. Midori. He settles, lifting his cooling coffee to his mouth to take a small sip of the bitter liquid. It's a tad on the nose, so close to his real name, that he almost regrets it for a moment. But nothing longer than just a moment, because his neighbor is opening up his mouth to test the name out. Midori. The other draws out, the syllables curling around his tongue and lips. Izuku gulps. He can't help but feel his ears start going red. Not fair, not fair, not fair! Even when he's been talking to him for the past 15 minutes, Izuku still can't help but feel it's a crime that this person is so gosh damn alluring. His eyes, his voice, his everything. Izuku's thoughts feel like they've been shaking when he tried to tell himself that this is fine. The smile that lifts up at the corner of the male's lips is a sly one, like he knows something that Izuku does not. He leans forward on the table, head propped on his forehead. Well, Midori, you can call me Murasaki. The way he says it reminds Izuku of the expression, the cat who got the cream. And that's exactly what the other looks like at the moment too. How fitting. Izuku murmurs, despite knowing that that's an obvious fake name. Colorful, mysterious. Same to you. Murasaki says right back. So now that introductions are out of the way, tell me what you do, Midori. Again with the phrasing. Why doesn't he just ask it? Maybe it's a confidence thing? Izuku heard that confident people state things more often instead of asking. Murasaki definitely seems like a confident fellow. Okay, alright. Yeah, I love this so far. Again, this so far there's nothing new. Except we're not getting Shinsou's point of view anytime soon. At least not anytime soon. We haven't seen his point of view. And the other one, we see his point of view a lot. Obviously, the reason why he doesn't say his name, the reason why Izuku doesn't say his name is because obviously, you know, Izuku has aliases and stuff like that. And as for Shinsou, again, he's undercover, right? So I think in this one the only reason he doesn't say his name is probably because, like, oh, okay, we're doing that. All right, I could be mysterious. So I wonder how this is gonna go. I'm super excited. Again, as I said last time, this is like, it's nothing new, and a lot of the words are actually worded quite similar, if I'm being honest, and it's really, really similar, but there's a tad bit of a difference, and I'm super, super excited and stoked for that. Like, it's super cool. Okay, as always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.